Hello and welcome to this broadcast with EG7. My name is Tomas Otterbeck, analyst at Redeye, covering gaming stocks, Nordic gaming stocks. And I'm sitting here with CEO Robin Flodin. Welcome.
Thank you.
Before the interview and the Q&A session, I will do some recap of the previous year and previous month. 4 acquisitions in 2019. The major ones was Petrol and Sold Out. Petrol is a US-based marketing agency and Sold Out a UK-based publisher. And we have a smaller one, Antimatter Games, a UK-based developer behind one famous franchise, Rising Storm, and a very small one, Game Session, which is a gaming distribution platform. If we summarize the 2 last years, EG7 as a group have quite some impressive growth from 11 million SEK to 500 million SEK. And of course, due to acquisitions, but also organic growth. And more than 20 ongoing development and publishing projects. And EG7 also released a trading update for the first 2 months this year. Close to 140 million SEK and 9% EBITDA margin. And in general, EG7 sees an upward trend during the COVID-19 period. But of course, like every other companies, some decline in the marketing Petrol, but those is all just external projects, I would say. And one of the bigger things is the rights issue. 120 million SEK was raised, and the interest was very good amongst institutional investors. So that's the recap, and now we welcome Robin Flodin. Welcome. We can start with your background, and you grew up in a commune, a kollektiv in Swedish, in Upplands Väsby, and now you have is the CEO of a billion SEK company. Could you tell us more about your upbringing and how, your background so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting for sure, the sort of journey, growing up. I had a lone mother, me and my sister. We grew up, we didn't have a lot when I was young, but I really appreciated my upbringing. Of course, I always used to say, though, that I lived between 2 worlds because, on my one side with my mother, we didn't have, I would say, generally, that much money. It was always sort of hard. We have to think about what to eat and what not to eat. And then my father, when I was a few years old, even though he separated from my mother, he became a doctor. So on his side of the family, it was a little bit of a different story, but I spent most of my time and lived with my mother. But something I really did, learn from my father was, because he came from a very poor background as well. He came from a very, very poor situation himself. And he actually left and became a cab driver after university, or after a gymnasium, actually. And then from there, he decided to change his life and became the head doctor, or överläkare in Swedish. And growing up, I saw that journey of that anyone can come from anywhere and go wherever they want. And that was always a very strong message, I think, that I took with me. And that's sort of gave me sort of the fire as well. Coming from there, I was always hungry, but I also knew that it was possible to reach anything you wanted to do as long as you worked really, really hard and put everything into what you do. So I think it's been a it was a really good way to grow up in that way, that I learned the value of money, but also the value of hard work. And today I'm very, very happy to be able to keep growing this group and get the responsibility from the team. and everyone around me to be on this journey. I'm very excited about.
And why games? Why did you? Is it a passion, or why did you start to work with games?
So the reason why I really love games is because when I was young, I was actually bullied in school. For many years when I was young, I liked nerdy things like many other people. It wasn't very popular, and I had a tendency to tell people what I thought about things that wasn't popular with the bullies. They generally thought you should do sports and not tell them when they were behaving in bad ways. But the video games for me, I'm dyslexic. So I had quite a hard beginning of my school time, and games was always this thing that it made me feel happy about myself. I met friends. It was this place of joy for a young child, and then throughout my life. And the reason why I really love games is, you get to work with something that is a great business, but also that brings joy to people. No matter if that's the kid that I was, that I always think that I want to make that kid happy. And then also I think, no matter if you're, a lone mother or father and you don't have that much time, games bring joy. And they bring community, and I think it's just a fantastic thing to get to work with that, even if it's a few minutes of joy to someone, or if it's that kid that I was, that it meant everything. It meant the world. It truly did, to get through school and get through these hard times. So for me, games, that always gave me this true passion for video games. And that's always been this thing that really drives me to make great products in games.
And do you have some role models? You have started a very aggressive acquisition strategy now, and of course I think of especially Lars Wingefors maybe, but do you have any role models in this?
So I want to start by saying I always am super impressed with people who do great things. No matter if it's Lars or Fredrik Wester or the guys in the industry, to many other people, because I think it takes something, it requires a lot out of you to be running a business. No matter if it's successful or not, it takes a lot. And I always appreciate that. But I think my biggest idols would be, in terms of companies, would be, something like Jeff Bezos. I'm not saying we're going to become an Amazon, but I really strive to think of, how can we become a global company and not only look at the Swedish market. And then I always take inspirations from those, because clearly they've done something right here in the local market. But in the end of the day, I want the business of EG7 to be able to become, a competitor to something like the Activision or EA one day. Even if that's a dream, I think that having those clear goals also give you the ability to reach further. So
that's actually my next question. Is that your vision, to be a global, more platform company, or what is the vision for the company?
Yeah, so that is definitely one of the parts. But I think something that's really important is also how we get there. And one of the things, and this is why, Alan and Matt and James and Gary, and one of the things that I've enticed people who are, we're constantly in talks with people, and we've got a lot of interest, because one of the things I said is I want EG7 to, not only be a great business, but also be the heart of games in a way. I want it to be doing games right. And I know that games, it's a little bit different in some aspects to other industries, because it's very passion driven. And if you kill the passion, you will kill not only your business eventually, but you will also kill the teams and the ability to make games. And I think everyone who plays games knows this, that the big giants, they have a tendency to sort of attack their communities in bad ways, which doesn't create long-term loyalty from the fans. And they also do this to the developers. They burn them out, or they do things that sort of create a bad long-term, short-term gain for long-term destruction of value, whether it's IP or something. So I've always been very passionate about this idea of a company run by entrepreneurs, understanding what video games is about, being able to do well for the fans. And this is something that we have as a sort of core tenant. Our goal is always long-term fans. things that we can see that will generate capital in a good way, but for the reasons that the fans want to give us money. People want to give us money because we do great products. People will want to work with us, and that side has really been sort of the core idea, and that's how we run the business today. And with James and Gary or Alan Ben. So, for example, when Alan Ben came along, they were very, they had this sort of American approach to, okay, it's M&A, so now you're going to tell us everything. And I said, no, that's not our approach. Even if we can outvote you, I don't care. We are equals in the sense of owners, and we will sit down and we'll discuss. So when we did the acquisition, like sold out, we sit around the table and we say, Alan and Ben, what do you guys think? Is this the right business for us? Our team says we have, of course, we have done all the pre-work and brought this company forward, but we wouldn't do it if you don't agree. And that's sort of how we kept going. So when James and Gary come in, they come to the table, and now we are a bigger group, sort of a round table of entrepreneurs who can sit around the table and say, should we do this? Should we invest in this? On the bigger scale of things. Of course, everyday business, they run their companies, and we try to help them increase their profits or learn new things. But around that round table, there's a discussion about so they all feel that they are owners of this business. They're all equals, and that was very important as well. And I think that's how you build. That's my view and hope that that's how you build this long-term company that will succeed, and also keep entrepreneurs that are been acquired and not just destroy the value and have them leave the company.
So what is your motto?
Work hard, play hard.
No.
I'm joking. I think that at the core of this is my motto is always about you have to stay humble about the things that you do and realize that it's all about the team. I would never be able to do what we do without the investors backing us, without the great team that sits behind us do the M&A, or without its entrepreneurs. This is not a one-man show. I do my part, and I try to work really, really hard to make sure that this company succeeds. But at the end of the day, it's a team effort, and I think that that's the most important thing to always remember, that we're all equals. No matter if you're a QA person or if you're the boss. At the end of the day, if everyone does a great job and everyone feels that they are fulfilled, you will have a great company.
And if you look at 5-10 years from now, you already have a developer, you have a marketing agency, and a publisher with Sold Out. How does this group look like in 5 to 10 years, if you would just think a little bit about it?
So of course I have some ideas about it, and my view is that we have even more great entrepreneurs that have joined the company. Of course, I hope that we've grown to become a leading industry player. Something that everyone will, everywhere around the world. They will know what EG7 is and what they stand for, and these values, I think, are very important, and that we're generating good returns to those who have invested and believe in the company. Because I think, in my view, all of these can come together, and I think that's very important. A business needs to generate capital. That I truly believe from a business perspective, but it also needs to be a good part of society. It needs to be in the way that it supports its developers, make sure that it's doing the right thing. And I think together you also get support from from gamers, from people around, investors, and in the long term you build a name. And that name also creates value because it will attract even more entrepreneurs into the group. And you say, do you have a publisher today? You have a marketing? Yeah, and I see, we want more entrepreneurs within the space. And then we see, we have categories that we look in, but we're not saying only, it needs to be that company. There's only going to be one publisher. We're not saying that. Instead, we're saying, okay, number one, right now, we're looking for companies that, with games that generate revenue that we can help scale within our platform. Number two, which we're still super interested in finding, is platforms. So that could be something that supports Petrol's work, or it could be something, maybe a new publisher, or that does something different and adds value to, a piece to that pie and can also help Sold Out grow. Or it could just be some publishing entity thing that we need that we see that today we don't have this, and this will. But we always, it's a feedback loop, right? So as we add companies, we go and ask them, what do you need? What are the things we should be looking for to make your business more successful? And through that, we become more successful over time. And the more great entrepreneurs we add, I think the business will be more and more successful over time.
Yeah, thank you. That's the interview. Should we take some maybe some Q&As from from investors and folks?
That sounds great.
Yeah. No Straight Roads, published by Sold Out, seems to have received an Epic grant. Any comments on this?
I won't say any direct comments on the Epic grant, maybe, but it's very, of course, very happy that there's such a high demand for content that makes them possible to be profitable before launch. This is a weird environment that we're seeing more and more of, and then Epic is not the only one. I can't say who, but there are other platforms that are coming out now and starting to buy content, and the competition is heating up around content, and that's very positive for any business that has, I think, both from the film, but with Netflix and these guys, and from video games very strongly. There's a demand for content, which makes the business even more, I would say, good as an investment from our side, or as an investor.
Could you say something which platforms it will be launched?
It will be launched on multiple platforms, on the consoles, the Switch, the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the PC.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot of questions about Petrol. How come we are not given more information about them and their work?
Yes, and we get this question a lot, and so it's great that we can address it. And I think the major part is just that, we see some people sort of comment, now they did this great work on, so they launched Call of Duty Warzone, for example, got 30 million downloads in a few hours or something crazy. But that is their business as usual, right? That's what they do every day, and that's what they've been doing in the last 17 years. So it wouldn't really be any newsworthiness for us to say, oh, now we're doing the thing that they always do, even though they're really great at it. And that's why we usually try to present it in quarterly reports and so on.
Okay, so they marketed the Warzone.
Yeah, so all the images you see there, that's done by them. A lot of the work on the marketing there. Not all of it, because it's such a big machine, but all the visual work is done by them. All the logo, Call of Duty logo, is made by Petrol, so that's pretty cool. And of course, latest was the new Assassin's game, the trailer and the marketing material there was also done by Petrol. They, and maybe people don't know, but that is, they do work with a lot of the big titles in the industry, with some of the biggest publishers, Embracer being one of them. That they sometimes, all of the the THQ logo is done by Petrol, and all of the THQ, so the old THQ, all of their old work was done by Petrol. So Darksiders, all the marketing material is done by Petrol originally. So and every year the E3. When that happened, the big poster is almost always done by Petrol every year for the last, I think, 7 years or something, 10 years.
And how long have they done Call of Duty? Because that's one of the major franchises. I read that 30 million, as you said, in 2-3 days, and 60 million users at this time are playing Warzone.
And that was, of course, an amazing campaign to be part of. But they've been working with Call of Duty 13 years.
Okay.
So they are the major. Activision, their major partner for visual work, ads, media is through Petrol.
Yeah. And we can talk some of your minor acquisition, Game Sessions. What's the main purpose of you owning Game Sessions, and when will the service be launched? It's one question here.
It's an interesting one, and I understand that there's been some criticism from some of our shareholders about the sort of we thought it would be out earlier, but they took some things took longer time, and not for the right reasons. We because the service was ready to launch, and we thought, okay, that's great when this date is done. But it's actually one of those weird things that have been affected by Corona. So there was some legal work because we didn't buy the company, we only bought the assets. And that assets had to be moved into an entity to sign some agreements to get the deals for the games. And that, because of everything shutting down, it's taken a lot longer than we thought it would. But we're intending, and I mean, we don't see this as a major thing for us. It's just for us, we got some great technology. They have compression technology that is a patent that we bought in this when we bought the company structure or all the assets.
So when you say compression, for those that don't know, you make big files small, or what compression are you talking about?
Internet lines are not getting bigger as fast as games are. I think most of us know that, right?
Yeah.
So, today a game can be like Call of Duty, can be 132 gigabytes, and this is an issue. So this is a patented own technology by us, how to compress 3D technology so it gets smaller download so that you can get it faster. But not only faster, it's also cheaper because data costs, right? So send data costs money. So for us, I mean, let's say for something like Evo or something that might have a lot of downloads, that can be quite expensive for the company and the P&L. Overall, when you're getting a lot of traffic, and here we have ownership. So that's one side we thought was really interesting. Then just the sell side, the idea was that it was going to do this subscription platform, a little bit like Spotify for games. And they have all the technology ready to do that. So we think it's a long-term, very interesting thing. It's still a small piece and not our major focus. And that's why I think that's why, in our view, it's not what I wake up every day and think about. It was like £50,000 or something for all of it. And then we have a few of the major engineers that came with it. And they've been working on that, and they've been continuing. And then and now it's mostly, like I said, legal stuff around it and some stuff. But we're definitely going to come out with more information as soon as we have a clear picture of when all of these details are sorted. And that's why we haven't really come out with any more information about it, because it's things that we don't control. And we want to make sure now, because of the previous communication, that we this time know 100% that we can hit it. And of course, it's been frustrating. I mean, we don't want to communicate things that are not correct or in any way sort of misleading, and we really try to avoid that. But sometimes things in life happen, and then we have that choice of, should we start communicating things that won't give you any more information rather than that it's postponed, or should we wait until we really have a certain date to give shareholders, especially as it's quite a small, I mean, it's not affecting the business on a major scale, so it's not it's not something that would be more in any way. It's just but in the end of the day, we'll come out with more information as soon as we know. It's still an exciting sort of value add that we sort of bought, and we think there are many things we could use it for.
So let's talk about games some more. The publisher Sold Out published Moving Out, that have received a Metacritic score of 80. And I actually saw it on Game Pass when I looked at it. Is this better than expected, the critical acclaim, or how do you view Moving Out?
We're always super happy when our partners are successful and we through them. Expected or non-expected, I mean, it's a great developer behind it, Team 17, and they generally do quite well with this type of titles. So, I mean, I can't comment, of course, on what that results in, but what can I say? It's always good when the titles are received well by the market.
Is it both digital and physical publishing Sold Out doing on this title?
So this is through our physical branch.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, because this is a Team 17 title first, and they do their own digital publishing.
Yeah. In a rights issue, you recently raised almost 120 million SEK. Can you tell us a bit about the rationale between the capital raise and who was the takers?
Yes, I can say a little bit about it, and I mean it was really great to see the demand, and of course one side is that there just isn't possible for the funds to buy on the market, so there was some quite strong demand, and of course we have the Sten Olsson family has been a big taker and had some great demand for the share. And then also as we also have with Eric who manages the family fund is Eric Nielsen is joining the board, which is a great addition as he's coming on to the board after the race. And then we also had some funds like Lloyds and Fondita, Scandia, and Landsförsäkringar, which we're super happy to have them in. And I think that I would say that for us it's very good, as we have a very active M&A strategy, and to have we feel that now we have a really good it's a weird way to say it, but a very good cap table in a way, that this is a good position for us. Then we also wanted to use the money for different investments that we see. Maybe it could be smaller acquisitions. It could be, and then specifically that it's, that we're looking at is investing in more product for sold out, and then more, and to be able to stand really strong in investment into the digitalization, but also the internal products from the studio side, so that we can always choose to prioritize internal products over consultancy works to make them the best they possibly can. And then I think, like I said, then also having these guys on board as we do more acquisitions, is very good for us, especially as we might see bigger sizes in the future. I mean, so far we've done 2 acquisitions where the companies has been double our size. And to be able to do these kind of acquisitions, we would really need strong institutional support.
Yeah, so you almost answered it already, but as you said, your acquisition strategy have been quite aggressive in the last year. Will you continue on this path going forward?
Definitely, and that's what we've been communicating. And I mean, I think it's very clear that our strategy is to, and I think it's through our previous questions about the vision and where we're going. This is a business about putting together to get to scale, and because there is, one side that is getting great entrepreneurs, but one side is also in this business you get so many benefits from scale. Both in when you are at events, showing games to press, to gamers, you eyeballs, data about what's going on in the market, and so on and so forth. So many things that gives you the big boys sort of a better and better upside the bigger they get. So I think that from that side it's great. From a shareholder perspective, we get diversified revenue. We get many more titles that we can rely on and also learn from. So I think as a gaming, it's very well fit, and as long as you use this strategy where you make sure entrepreneurs stay on board and are very happy with being part of the company, it's just I think it's just a core idea. It's really good to do M&A, and what does that lead to? Well, we're gonna do more. we're gonna try to find new companies, and we are actively looking, right? So all the time, and we've been looking. Last year we looked at probably 100 companies or more maybe. And ended up with 3, major companies that we bought. This year we'll see. We've scaled up our M&A team. That's what I can say.
So you can't say acquisition targets. Are you looking at maybe publishers or distributors, or just great companies and great entrepreneurs? Or can you say something about the targets?
I think I mentioned something about it earlier, but we have a list of priorities that we're looking for, and it's number 1 right now. We want to have game companies that we can help scale and that own IP or product that are generating revenue today. That's our favorite acquisitions, I would say, or IP that we can ourselves develop. that is generating revenue. After that, it's number 2 is platform, and platform is everything around gaming. It could be marketing, it could be publishing in different ways, or QA for that matter. Anything that we see, like if we add this piece, that will make our business better and be able to do better things. And then we have a third category which we call opportunities. And in the opportunity category, we don't know it yet, but every time they come along, we go, this is just something we have to do. Artplant was actually an opportunity, and Antimat was an opportunity thing where it just landed on our table, and it was a great deal. We could see from every, and that sort of then helped form part of the future strategy as that came into our, and I think so, we have a very clear picture where we're going, but that doesn't mean that you have to also always apply yourself to these things that come in and how they work, and there will always be things that you didn't know that come in, and I think that that's the important thing. It's kind of like, when you do strategy in the military, you have strategy, but then tactics is about applying yourself to the situation, and that's how we see it.
When we have looked at the COVID-19 effect on gaming companies, we have seen actually a corona boost. I have talking about on the digital games, but some disturbance on the physical distribution. Could you say something about how the corona effect has to EG7?
So it's been very interesting. Generally, it haven't done much to the business, up or down. It's just been stable. On our production side, we have actually seen increase in production, which was I wouldn't have guessed before this, but clearly we already had, because we have so many offices working together from a developer side. Our VPN system was very first class. More people go into the Stockholm office on a daily basis than work here. So, some of my friends in the industry I talked to, they had an issue with that their VPN system got overloaded because they have everyone in one location, then they walk out and try to use it all at once. It just shuts down, right? But we have, most of our staff outside working in towards our VPN system, so that wasn't really an issue at all. We walked off the site from the developer side and then started working the next day. And there were some small things, but it took maybe a few hours. On the publishing side, we've been lucky with timing on releases and so on, and some things have been delayed, but generally, even in Italy, we've been able to ship games, which I would have been surprised to believe. But I think people also forget about things like, for example, food stores have a lot of games these days that they sell, sort of like they sell film and so on, and that's been a great avenue. And also before the lockdowns, people cleared out a lot of the inventory in a lot of stores, like in the UK, and so just everything was cleaned out. So, and that sort of give you that bump that you sort of went through that, and then now things are opening up again. So I think on the general whole there you won't see much either. But then on the marketing side, which the only thing I think was affected, there were some pushed projects. Mostly because developers were a little bit confused what was going to happen, and then they started again, and then it was fine. So I think and that those projects are still ongoing. They were just sort of moved in time, somewhat. So on the general whole, not much.
Yeah. Okay, and physical gaming events, many of them have been cancelled due to COVID-19. Which digital events will you attend?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, we have been attending a lot of the sort of on the business side already. I actually have to say though that in a weird way, and I guess we live in a different world from, I would say, after COVID, before COVID is different worlds. And one thing that we realized, I guess, was now we're spending a lot less on travel from our business side. But because you can't travel, people are now usually you call all your business friends and you say, yeah, let's take that on the show. And now they go, oh yeah, let's have a call, because there's no show. Everyone knows there's no show, so so everyone's open to having a webcam, which is a lot more efficient. So I would actually say that on that side, it has benefited us. On the show side, from our perspective, when are we going to go out on being digital events? That's when it fits those specific games. And I think something that's important to understand as well is, I mean, I don't sit, as a CEO and say, hey, you need to show this game. That's up to the marketing teams. And now, for example, Sold Out, who's in charge of that, they decide that. And I trust that they decide good when some of the timings. I think the only thing that we've gone out with, which I will comment on, I think would be that was, I would say, was a bit too early, was the Evil stuff. And that was because we promised shareholders we would show something.
Evil versus Evil, the game. Yeah.
Exactly. And Evil versus Evil wasn't ready to go out. That's why we haven't pushed it marketing-wise at all. I think some shareholders might have been wondering why it haven't been shown up a lot, and that was intentional. And the reasoning there was that we said, we discussed a lot, and it was a really hard choice. We said we have promised that we're going to show what the game is to shareholders, and but then we said, okay, but that's fine. We will show some early some stuff because I think it's a really cool product. But the way this kind of product is a live service product, it's a free-to-play game now. People know more about it, so it's good that we can discuss it. It's not the same way where you try to create all the hype going in and then selling on day one, and then, and over a few months, like a premium product. This works very differently. So here you sort of launch, and then you have like a scale up instead, marketing spend, because you're buying in, and as you see your numbers start moving in the right direction, you have like a uptick in sales, and then you start spending marketing to meet that demand, right? And then you're making money on all the marketing you spend. So it's a little bit of a different model, and that's why we're going to see more marketing, I would say, as we're getting very close to launch. That's where we want most of the push for the game to be.
Can you tell us more about the revenue model? Is it season passes or more microtransactions, or how would you explain the revenue model?
It will be based. I mean, we have different models. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's out to the development team. But it is. Comparative games would be something like War Thunder or Warframe. In the way we try to make, even League of Legends, I guess, in terms of how they monetize. We want to make sure that hardcore gamers are not turned off by the monetization, but we are going to monetize the game, in where you can buy things in the game, and also maybe through ads as well. So those are the two means of revenue streams for the game.
Okay. And that was this, so will Evil versus Evil be released on consoles as well as the PC, or is it just PC, but not simultaneously? Maybe you can't answer that.
I won't comment on that, but I can say that I do think the consoles are very interesting. Because for this type of game, I think something like Warframe has really shown that the consoles haven't had that many titles free to play on this quality bar that we're aiming for, and we think that there still aren't. If you look, there aren't that much competition, especially in the PvE, which this is, because what Evil is really taking what the core team is, something like we've worked on Killing Floor or Warhammer Vermintide, and taking that free to play, right? That experience, that's sort of a way to think about it. Then we have some other cool things in there. I think the team has done. Not want to spoil the thunder from there, but I find if you look at something like Warframe, those kind of experiences have been very successful, and there are not that many out there on that kind of segment.
Can you disclose if it's a first-person game, or haven't you?
Oh, it's in the gameplay. So
okay.
If you go look at the gameplay,
Great.
It's definitely a first-person game.
Yeah.
It's where you have you can see the video, and then our team will come out with more information about all the details. But it's definitely we always try to think about. And it might seem weird, but with if you compare to other things, but I think if you look at our entire strategy, you will understand that we think of things or this is how I like to think about it. It's a portfolio play. So we'll have something like 83, which is targeting Rising Storm, and we have 13 years of data that I've seen for Rising Storm. I know exactly what that community wants, right? And is that gonna be the $100 million game? No. but it's a very, very loyal community. And then we have things that we see, okay, here the potential is very high. Maybe it's riskier, the chance is higher, but the potential is higher. And I think that you have to look at the portfolio. You want some of those bets that could really send, the value and the revenue generation up, and then you have some that you can rely on, that you can count home all of your revenue, all of your yearly revenue, and make sure that you keep growing. And that's I think that's what we're trying to create, at least with the portfolio.
Yeah, it's very impressive to see some of these games that maybe after 4 years actually every year increases in revenue. If you say Rainbow Six Siege or something, it's very impressive. So yeah, it's a long-term bet, I would say. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think if you look at something, I mean, I don't know if you know RuneScape. They got bought recently, but I mean that's a company. I remember playing it when I was younger. Has been out 18, 19 years, 17 years as an MMO. I won't say it's a very beautiful game, but they are generating the highest revenue numbers this year that they've done. Or last year, sorry, in 2019. I don't know what they do now, but I assume it's even bigger because of COVID. But like something like 80 million pounds in revenue and 40 million in EBIT. Yeah. Like these crazy numbers, right? So
and no improvements on the graphics this year. No,
I have no idea. I don't know that. I don't know that, but this is just an example of what these, and that's why we are as a group, we're all about long-term community building games in different ways, where you have strong fan bases and where you can see long-term growth. And no matter if that's releasing new games within the genre or if it's with a continuously played game.
Yeah, and this project I like very much. I'm a big fan of GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64. So, and you have a project called Project IGI, and you seem to have created some hype surrounding this game. The question is, when can we expect to find out more about this title?
So that comes back to that marketing thing again. We try not to be deciding that on the, and that's why I can't really promise anything, because if they change their mind, I don't want to have said one thing to shareholders and then they change their mind. They base that on what they think is the best timing. I think that you will probably after the summer you will start seeing some more, but nothing to trust me on the word. I would instead trust that the marketing team will do their best to make sure that they start ramping up hype as we come closer to launch. But what I can say is, it is under production. It's a great team working on it. And what I've seen so far looks cool. I think it's me as well. GoldenEye, one of my favorite N64 games. Seeing another one of those wouldn't be wrong, personally speaking. But
Yeah, and here's another question. Some people think that the EG7 team is unexperienced. Any comments on this subject?
Yeah, I guess if we keep getting the question, eventually we'll get to experience both answering the question. No, but actually, we have a very strong team and behind us, which I'm super happy about. I think it's a sort of a mute point because the team behind it. Rich Barham, who's the guy who runs Antimatter, he was one of the highest executives at Blizzard. He built the Blizzard French office and built the entire team there himself. He was at Riot, he was at IO as an executive, and he's just an example. But there's many examples in our studio and in our group of people who've been. So James and Gary, who founded Sold Out, they've been in business for 30 years in the game business. James' first job was at a quite unknown studio called 2K, or a publisher, where he released another quite
not unknown,
quite unknown title called GTA, the first GTA. He was employee number 6. So to say that the team is unexperienced, I think would be wrong. Some of us are younger, in the team, and some of us have been for 30 years. And our CEO, Chris Bergstrasser, was vice president of Sega Europe, and now is COO of the company. Morten was vice president of Funcom for 10 years. So I would say that we have quite a strong management team, and this is what we've done. We have the leadership that has been young and been very hungry, and then we've hired people who are better than us or more experienced than us in positions we think that they will do a great job, and then we listen to them and we discuss, and I think that's how you have to see it. And that means that this company is very different today than it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago or even a year ago. And we keep doing that journey of adding great talent. And I think that that's what you should hopefully focus on then is, are we adding the right kind of talent rather than, is the team experienced or not experienced? Because it's not true. I mean, we can give you a list of people and how many years they worked in the industry, and we will stack up very well against, many other studios and places.
So one of you have spoken about this already. One of your new main shareholder is Stena Olsson family. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I just think it's very fun that they are, that Eric and the family has shown support. They're very, of course, very prestigious to have their support. I think because they're very long-term Swedish. Family that has been around and done some great things and great investment, and we just want to live up to that expectation, and then it also is, the good thing for us is, of course, having a strong backer means, for the M&A strategy is very good, and then having Eric in the board and all of his experiences. He was chief strategic officer at Handelsbanken and has had some amazing track record in investment himself. I think his knowledge will add a lot of value to our board, so we're very excited, and that's what we always try to do. We try to find people that know things better than us and add them so that we can become even smarter as a group.
So thank you, Robin, for this interview. But do you have any last comments before we end this?
I think that what I want to end on is just I'm super excited. I think this is, we've gotten some amazing entrepreneurs to join us. We're sitting in front of a journey that's, I don't know. One day I dreamed about it. We talked a little bit about my history, but as a kid, I dreamed about it. When I grew older, I've always wanted to work in games and do games, and we're living that dream. And I think that as a shareholder, as a CEO, or just as part of this company, as one of those who work here, this feels like, in many ways, our year, and it's something I hope all of those out there, the shareholders, the staff, and gamers are looking forward to.
Thank you very much.